about.
Lord of the Rings is an IP pretty much everyone's familiar with at this point. It's older than literally most of the stuff we talk about on this show.
Yeah.
I mean, Tolkien fantasy is like its own genre, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I have never seen the original Lord of the Rings trilogy.
They're great.
Have you seen the Hobbit movies?
I saw one with him.
Yeah. I've only seen one of them.
The only reason I went is the 48 frames per second. And when we went,
That's a very Pat thing.
when we were
I
gonna,
remember he was hyping this up as we were on our way to the movie. I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
yeah, but then you saw it and it was a sharp ass image.
It was.
It's like butter.
We also saw we were gonna go see the second one, remember? And then there was a snowstorm that happened.
That's right.
We tried driving out in it, and like my car just started sliding across the road. I was like,
Yeah, we're not doing
"How about
this.
Netflix?" It was whatever. It was okay.
But
So-
have you seen The Hobbit?
I did, unfortunately. Yeah, I've seen the Hobbit movies.
Okay, so they're not good.
Well, I mean, it was the production was weird because it was supposed to be Del Toro. I always want to say Benicio del Toro. Guillermo del Toro. He was supposed to do it, and then weeks before production started, he had to drop out, and then Peter Jackson figured if I don't take over, this movie is going to be a disaster. Mm-hmm. So he jumped in weeks before production. And then also like the exact opposite of what happened with the Lord of the Rings movies, whereas with that, he went into it saying no studio is going to greenlight me to make a trilogy, so let me condense. And then whatever studio he went up going with said, no, we want you to do this in 3 movies. Mm-hmm. So with this one, they were like, let's take this one tiny little book and stretch it out across 3 movies.
Got it.
And they added a bunch of new extra plot, and it just like really made those movies tough to watch.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you take it from like you don't know a lot about The Hobbit and everything, and like you were a Lord of the Rings fan, it's good you got another 3 movies. Like visually, they look pretty good.
I disagree.
You don't think so?
The problem is it
Nah,
leaned
dude.
way too
In the
heavily
first
into the
Hobbit-
CGI. Hold on. The original movies, a lot of practical effects enhanced by CGI, whereas The Hobbit came in a time when everything was CGI.
Yeah, but the first movie has that battle sequence. Remember where like the camera pans through the battle sequence and you actually see like in slow motion or almost like freeze frame. Like, you know, you see all the 3D rendered like graphics and like everyone getting stabbed and like what the battle of like the hobbits and the orcs looked like and everything. I thought that's like one of the best things. Like that imagery stuck with me as opposed to like the fucking weird trolls and like the weird dogs and everything. You're still talking about the first Hobbit, yeah.
But if you look at the original movies, which I know you haven't seen, it's like you can really see the difference between real extras and actors being there versus the final one, the Battle of the 5 Armies. It's just like 10 guys clone stamped 1,000 times. And I think it lends to the fantasy and really feeling like you're in this other world, whereas CGI feels like any other blockbuster movie.
I mean, I definitely...
Hold on. Can we talk about the actual
It takes away some of like the whimsy of it all.
I just want to hear what Mike has to say, then we'll jump into it.
I was going to say, I definitely agree, and it kind of feels like if the original Lord of the Rings could have done this with that technology at the time, like that obviously it's, you know, developed a lot, I feel like they probably would have.
And it would have been worse for it.
And it would have been worse for it. But so this is kind of like, that's a good point. Yeah, it's like this is how you think they might have, like, if they were to like redo.
It's the same thing with the Star Wars movies,
Yeah,
whereas the
100%.
originals are very tactile and you
Yep.
have puppets on set, and then you have the prequels and everything is smooth and shiny, and then we get back around to the sequel series where they're like, okay, we know the best practices from both and blend them together, and you get like, as much as I dislike the sequels, they look the best.
Okay. I see what you're saying. And I mean, they had to do a lot of clever shit on the original Lord of the Rings, like with the hobbits and everything.
Yeah, the
like the
forced
way
perspective.
Yep.
But the way they do it, it also, I see what you're saying. It's better than literally taking someone and shrinking them down in CGI. It's way better to do it the practical way.
There are some times where you might want to do that, but it's like when the whole movie is built around CGI, that's where I have a problem.
Okay.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to say, a lot of the Lord of the Rings was in CGI too. Like I remember reading a thing where like Ian McKellen was like in just a green screen essentially in a situation, and like he had broke down because he was like, this is not why I got into acting. Like he was so upset because he's like, I'm a fucking wizard sitting in a green room right now.
Wait, sorry, was this on The Hobbit?
This was actually no. This is on the original Lord of the Rings.
Oh, this is in the original Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Oh,
they
okay.
still used a lot of it, like when they're in the Shire and when they're in like his actual house. Like a lot of that is background CGI.
That's interesting. I need to go back and check because I know they did build 2 versions of of Bilbo's house. They did a full scale one for him, and then they did a miniaturized version as well.
Okay.
Bilbo slackens. Bilbo slackens. Hi, Bilbo. Your feet. They're gross.
So
All hobbits' feet are gross.
Pat, tell us what the title of this new show is.
Oh, okay. It's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming out September 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
It's an awful name.
Shang-Chi,
So-
the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power.
So, I mean, what else are you going to call this? That's what I really want to know, because this
The
is
Rings of Power would have been fine.
But then, as
or
we
The
were
Lord of the Rings would have been good too.
But so here's the thing:
it
is
just
that
sounds like they couldn't pick.
if you just call it the Lord of the Rings, then you're not making it something new.
They
You're
want,
just
they
taking
want to
the
be
same.
able to do more shows and more properties
Mm-hmm.
under the Lord of the Rings. So if you call the show Lord of the Rings, you're boxing yourself.
Exactly.
You can't just call it Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
But you also have
Watchmen.
a fucking universe full of
Watchmen
everything.
only ever was supposed to be 1 season.
Was it? I
Yeah.
thought they were. I thought they were going to do 2.
all right.
They
They might
early
but
on.
the-
Yeah,
Who wrote that?
I can't remember their name.
Lindelof, Damon Lindelof. He only intended to do 1 season. The HBO can go and do another season, but he wrote a perfectly encapsulated 1 season arc.
But I mean, with this, back to the title, I just don't, especially with now that we know what the story is about, where it takes place in the Second Age, which the Lord of the Rings movies took place in the Third Age. When we go to the Second Age, now we're going to when Sauron made all the rings, and so now there's 20, 30 something rings in the world. So the show Rings of Power makes sense. I understand
Why not
ring
just
and
call
ring
it
get.
Lord of the Rings, the Second Age. There you go.
The Lord of the
you
Rings
could do
Uncut
that.
Gems.
I
The
kind
Second
of feel
Age.
the second. That's not a sexy title. That's not a
Neither
sexy
is Lord of
title.
the
though.
Rings, the Rings of
fucking
Power.
But
HGTV.
it's also HGTV doesn't have very sexy
yes,
titles
they
in a
did
way.
House Hunters. That's a sexy title, bro. Shut the fuck up.
Brothers Gutters.
But
Gutter
it's also one of the
Property
issues.
Brothers.
One of the issues is working with houses. That's all we. It's trying to come up with new titles.
Me, a MILF in
when a
this
lot
house.
when a lot of the shows are kind of in a way very similar. So it's coming up with different titles.